Hey, what's going on? It's Chris Carino. This is the voice of the Nets, getting you set for training camp, which is coming up shortly. And we're going through some of the holdovers, the guys who were here from a year ago. And certainly this episode is containing one of the major pieces. It's always a success story when one of your guys gets paid. You may think of it differently. You may say, well, organizations don't want to open their checkbook for guys. But when you draft a player with the 31st pick overall, and you then a few years down the line give him $100 million, that is a success story for your organization. And that's what's happened to Nic Claxton. He was the 31st pick in the 2019 draft. That's a project. And when your project becomes one of your centerpieces, that means you have done something correctly. The Nets have always been very good at drafting late in the first round, early second round. It's one of the reasons that Sean Marks was able to get out of the hole he was in, that he inherited after the Pierce Garnett trade, right, to relive all that. Was his ability to find guys late in the first round, early second round. There's no better example than that than Nic Claxton. Nic Claxton maybe isn't a complete player. He's still an improving player. He's still a player with a lot of room for growth. And it's probably the reason why he didn't get $35 million a year. So, Capper, when we think of Nic Claxton, what has been the biggest area of growth, you think, in the last few years that has now made him a cornerstone piece of this Net team?
Well, first of all, I just think he was a brilliant evaluation by the Nets organization to understand the versatility with which he provides a team. I think he's gotten tougher. I think he's gotten better around the basket, but he's had skills that really translate well now to the modern NBA. He's a five. First of all, he's a switchable five. Everybody knows that. He can get out on the perimeter and do his job. But offensively, which I think is a critical component with Claxton right now as we look at him, you can run offense through him. The modern NBA, you want that five to be able to do things. And he can definitely do things. He can handle the ball. He can pass the ball. He can initiate offense for you. Listen, he's improved in every area because he's gotten opportunities. He's still got to get stronger. He's still got to be able to finish better. He's still got to make free throws at a consistently higher rate. But he has a great evaluation of the skill and also knowing where the NBA was going. You have to understand this league is continuously changing and evolving. The five position continues to evolve. That's why I'm really curious to see how Jordi Fernandez incorporates Claxton, because he's got a lot of Sabonis in his game. And if you think about how the Kings played, Claxton can mimic a lot of those things.
If Nic Claxton can get to Domantas Sabonis territory, he's going to be one of the most underpaid players in the NBA.
I just mean, like, as far as running offense in the modern 5-out system, your five being able to do things is critical, and that it makes the offensive flow really, really effective.
And I think, Lucas, I think when you look, everybody knows Claxton made his reputation on defense. I mean, his ability to guard 1 through 5, but it's also become a bone of contention over the years where, should they be playing in a drop coverage? Should they be playing in a switching defense? What does it do to their rebounding numbers? When you go behind the numbers on Nic Claxton, what are some of the things that stand out to you and what's made him such a great story for this Net team?
Yeah, the story is great, and I love how you let off with that context. Anytime a second-round pick or a low first-round pick gets a second contract, much less one that shows he is indeed a centerpiece to a team, it is a success story for him and for the development staff. I mean, he came into the league with really elite movement skills. It was just guys that big don't move like that, but not a lot of, immediate avenues to production. Okay, he can move, but what does he actually do well at the moment. And, in the last 5 years, he's probably a good drop defender, an elite, probably the elite switch big in the NBA. And when you talk about defense, it's the consistently great drop coverage guys that provide a lot of value over an 82 game regular season. But the elite switching and all of the things he can do, make him the best defender on the court in the league for games, quarters, stretches at a time. I mean, I think we all remember sometime last winter, he played Jaren Jackson, he played Chet Holmgren, he played Bam Adebayo in like a week, 2-week stretch. And he was, if not dominating those matchups, looking them eye to eye. The Bam one always sticks out to me as those guys go at each other. But Claxton has these moments with his talents where he is, matched up with any center in the league.
I think the Bam matchup is interesting because I think that's a comp for who you want Nic Claxton to maybe emulate, become, who he can kind of is in that conversation with. Not as maybe big and powerful as Bam. Bam has a more polished offensive game, but that's kind of where you want Claxton to go, right? I mean, the thing about Nick is you talked about a Capper. His ability, we said at some point he must have been a guard. He had a growth spurt in high school, right? He's got good ball handling skills.
Yeah.
So he can handle the ball in that high post. He can get it to the rim, underrated roll man, that kind of thing. At any point, though, is he going to have to start to make some shots? I mean, I know that would put him at another level. Does he need to go there to be a more impactful player? You would like him to be there.
Sure.
Does he need to be there?
I think it would be a bonus almost, because if you remember 2 seasons ago, he led the league in field goal percentage, and he was taking some, 2-dribble hook shots, spin in the lane. It wasn't exclusively run or set a screen, run, jump, catch a lob. So I think it would be a bonus. The free throw shooting is more of a necessity, but he almost doesn't have to, I think, become like a Bam type of mid-range corner 3-point operator to return, positive offensive value. I wonder what Capper thinks about that.
I don't know if he's going to be that kind of guy. I think when me and Chris started out, we would watch Brooke Lopez shoot 15-foot shots and say to ourselves, boy, eventually he's going to be a terrific shooter. When we watch Noah Clowney shoot the ball, you can tell he's going to be a very good shooter. Nick, I don't know if that's ever going to be what he does, and it could limit. Maybe this is what he is, and you play with that. What happens then is you get yourself in situations where you can't have him on the floor with another non-shooter. I mean, that then the lane is too clogged, so that becomes an issue. But I think he's right now he's a very good player. I think that would make him, if he develops a 3-point shot with everything else he's doing, then he will be one of the elite bigs in the NBA. He's already very good.
The other thing about Nick, I think he's stepping into a role right now this year that's a little different from where he's been in his career. He came into the league, he was a young player, he was trying to adjust. He had a lot of veterans. Then he was with the superstars. Now he's a cornerstone. He's going to be, especially if they start trading some of the veterans during the course of the year, you're going to also get a good chance this year, I think, to see can Nic Claxton be that leader? Can he step into that role and be one of the leaders of this team? I think that's something I'm curious to watch about Nic Claxton this year.
And he's got games under his belt. And, you want leadership from your better players or your best players on the floor. You got to have that. And I think it's a good opportunity for Claxton to show he's capable. And the maturing of a young player. He is a guy. He's gotten a big contract now. He's gotten a lot of games under his belt. It's time for him to add something on that end also.
All right. Well, Nic Claxton, he will be a key to the Nets' success moving forward. Rewarded this year with a huge contract, which is something that was obviously rewarding for a team that took him with the 31st overall pick, and they're the ones who reap the rewards and will make Nic Claxton his net team is. You're looking at a rebuild. You're looking at a retooling, and when you want that, you love to have a 25-year-old big who can do the things that Nic Claxton can do, especially on the defensive end. So that's a little deep dive into Nic Claxton. We'll talk with him, I'm sure, throughout the course of training camp, and have more here on the Voice of the Nets podcast. Lucas Kaplan covers the Nets for NetsDaily, as well as the digital team with the Nets. Look forward to seeing a lot of the stuff that he's doing out there. And, of course, the Capper, Tim Capstraw, my radio partner, beginning our 23rd season this year on WFAN. I'm Chris Carrino. This has been the Voice of the Nets.